start by telling me a little bit about working with Ava and why she was the person to bring the story to screen?
Because I think she's just so brilliant with humanizing characters. You know, a lot of the time when you read scripts, you have two-dimensional characters. You have, especially when it comes to female characters, which is one of the things she imbued the script with from a writing point of view. She's just so great at human emotion, and I always knew that if I was going to have a good chance of playing him well, playing him the right way, you had to see the emotional life of this man, not just the oratory and the iconography.
And I read that you have an affinity for him, so can you tell me a little bit about first discovering who Dr. King was and then maybe figuring out that you had that strong connection to him?
Yeah, well, my affinity started with his faith, really. I share his faith. I'm a Christian myself. I also have 4 kids, which he had. You know, that's a pretty good jump-off point in terms of how big a part of his life those elements were. You know, where it starts to drop off is, you know, being a civil rights leader, and that's what I had to go and discover. But in many ways, that's what we know of Dr. King. What I think is revelatory, what I think is really compelling for the audience is to find out what he was like as a father, what he was like as a friend, what he was like as someone who was at times unsure, someone who needed encouraging. You know, you never think of those things when you think of Dr. King, and I think that's what, hopefully anyway, is satisfying about the film.
It's kind of crazy to me that after all these years, we've never really seen all those sides of him in a movie.
Right. I know, you know, and I scratched my head as well. You know, when I first read the script in 2007, I couldn't believe that, you know, this hadn't happened yet, and that we then struggled to get the film made again. But I truly believe that looking at what's going on in the country right now, there's something divine about the timing of this film in relation to Ferguson, in relation to the protests that are happening right now outside this very hotel. So, you know, and let's face it, if it had happened before now, it probably wouldn't be me. So I'm just fine.
How was it being attached to this film for so long? And especially because I know you prepped a little for the first time to make it with Lee Daniels. Was there anything about that version and then now this one that made you have to switch gears in a way?
Yeah, I was well on the way to gaining the weight. You know, I was ready to go. But look, I think mercifully, I know I'm more ready now than I was then. I think, you know, I've matured a lot in those 7 years. It was frustrating, it was annoying, but like I say, I truly believe the best version of the film is what we now have. And to be at an event just this weekend where I'm watching the film with Andrew Young, with John Lewis, with C.T. Vivian, with Diane Nash, all of who are featured in the film, with Dr. King's children, his youngest daughter Bernice and his eldest son, and them feeling like we got it right, you know, that to me makes all the waiting worthwhile.
How is it for you trying to make them feel like you got it right while also making this character your own? Because we've seen a few actors portray him on screen before, so what is it about this version that makes him yours?
Well, the one thing I couldn't afford to do is think about them while I was making it. I had to go and find the truth for me and hope that it lines up with what is appeasing or amenable to them. Of course, it's wonderful that they love the film, but, you know, he wasn't perfect, he wasn't a saint, and so you always run the risk of someone being unhappy. But the one thing that both Ava and I are truth seekers, and that was our job. That was what we owed the audience, and we owed him. I think that by seeing him as a human being, actually what he did is more admirable, because he's like us, and yet he did what he did, which is kind of extraordinary.